Hello, this is OverlordBou, and today I'll be covering the first Pan-American destroyer to enter World of Warships, the Tier 10 La Pampa. Now, the La Pampa will be coming into special events starting around November 15th, and you'll be able to buy in the event, and I'll explain how at the end of today's video. The La Pampa follows suit with the San Martin and Libertad lines by having its very own combat instruction that is very similar to the San Martin, with the 85% quicker consumable reload time while activated. Now, this ship is a torpedo monster. With 15 torpedoes and a torpedo reload booster, it will be the new ultimate Tier 10 torpedo spammer of Tier 10. Now, let's get started on what makes this ship great: the torpedoes and the combat instruction. Now, for the torpedoes, you get 3 Quint torpedo tubes, so you get 15 per salvo with a 10.5 kilometer range, which is relatively short for a Tier 10 torpedo destroyer. Now, these torpedoes do a lot of damage with 17,500, which is good for a destroyer. Now, the speed of the torps are 66 knots with a 1.3 kilometer detection, and so about a 7.3 second reaction time, which is very good. For reference, gearing torps have 7.9 second detection. So the reload on these torps are 130 seconds, but you can build that down by having a torpedo build, which I'll be showing at the end of today's video. Now, the one downside of these torpedoes is you have a very restrictive torpedo arcs, which is really painful for getting the torpedoes off. But with having 15, I'm not too surprised with this on there. And also with the torpedoes, you do get the torpedo reload booster, which allows you to get a quick succession of torps after the 15. So you can launch up to 30 in quick succession, which is a lot of torpedoes for a Tier 10 destroyer. Overall, this is a very excellent torpedo stats, except for her mediocre range. Now, by the Tier 10 standards alone, you have to get really close with this ship. The La Pampa will prove a nightmare for any ship that pushes into her, hydro or no hydro, just because of how many torpedoes are going to be in the water. Even destroyers have to be careful, as one torpedo can stop them cold in their tracks, and enemies have to consider not one wave but 2 waves of torpedoes. And I was saying before, her only real drawback is her 10.5 kilometer range, but you will feel that drawback as radar ships will prove a nightmare to deal with, like the 12 kilometer Russian radars or the Brisbane 12 kilometer will be a real pain to deal with the fact that you have to get so close to be able to launch your torpedoes. Now, the other thing that makes this ship amazing is the combat instruction. Now, this combat instruction, when activated, has a 30-second duration that makes it where 85% reduction in consumable reload time while activated. Now, this will fully reload smoke and heal, and it makes the reload booster reload down to 90 seconds in time for when the torpedoes are reloaded again. Now, you do lose progress on this combat instruction after 30 seconds of being spotted, which normally, if you're spotted in this ship, you're not going to do super well. So definitely try to make sure to be not spotted in this ship. Now, how to gain progression in this ship is really easy. You earn 5% progression for every 10 seconds you're unspotted, and you earn 25% progression for each torpedo hit. So technically speaking, if you want to get it quickly, you can get a full progression of the combat instruction with only 4 torpedo hits. Or if you're just remaining unspotted, if you just do the math, let me think. So 200 seconds. It takes about 200 seconds of being unspotted. So that's about like 3.5. It's 3 minutes and like 3 minutes and 20 seconds is normally how long it would take for you to get your combat instruction alone with no torpedoes. Now, something very heavy to note is that you do not gain combat instruction, like progress at all, from your main guns. You only get it from torpedo hits and from remaining unspotted. So I just want to make that very clear. This is something that's very different from the San Martin, the Liberta lines, where main battery hits or potential damage is what increases the regression of the combat instruction. This ship is only when you're unspotted and when you hit torpedoes. This is the defining feature of this ship. She can quickly get the reload smoke, heal while her torpedo reload booster will be ready for the next set of torpedoes. It's not an immediate game changing, but that constant threat of pushing into 3 torpedoes will make a big impact on enemy movements throughout the course of the match. Also, something to note with the consumables is that the heal is a normal heal. Normally with these kind of combat instruction ships, where you have the consumables being able to get quicker, normally all of the consumables take a very long time to get, like the smoke, the torpedo reload booster, and the heal. But on this ship, only the smoke and the torpedo reload booster take a long time to get. The heal is actually normal reload time. So even if you don't have your combat instruction up, you are able to use your heal quickly, which is, well, the normal rate, which is really nice for this ship because it does need it with how low HP it does have, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But yeah, as I just said, the consumables of this ship are the smoke screen, the TRB, and the standard heal. There is no other consumables on this ship. Those are the only ones. But yes, the main defining features of this ship are the torpedoes and the amazing combat instruction. The fact you're able to lay out so many torpedoes and just do a massive amount of damage with them. If anyone pushes into you, or if you're able to push onto an enemy side, there is really not much they can do, and they're going to be suffering tremendously. Now, moving on, let's start talking about what's not as good about this ship. So this ship, you do get 2 114 millimeter turrets, so you get a total of 4 guns. Same guns as the Daring, but with a slower reload. You do get very floaty shells. You do get the AP on that. It has the same improved bounce angles as the Royal Navy destroyers, so you are going to want to use more of the AP if you do happen to want to shoot enemy destroyers. You do want to use more of the AP when you can, so you get that extra damage onto them. Now, there is all 4 turret arrangements. You cannot fire directly to the rear, due to the fact that, again, all the turrets are just on the front. And it has a very weak gun firepower, even worse than the Shima and the Somers. Unfortunately, if you were hoping this ship was going to be a gunboat, yeah, unfortunately not. It's not going to be. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. Now, one good thing to note about this ship is that the turrets are 360. So if you are kiting away from somebody, you can wiggle and keep getting your guns to fire when you're wiggling back and forth. Like, you're turning left, you turn the turrets one way, and then you turn right, you turn them the other way. You can keep turning them back and forth and keep getting your guns off while you're wiggling and running away. And you're also then able to use your smoke to be able to go dark, which is a very nice feature. If this thing did not have a 360 turrets, it would be way more painful. But luckily you do, which is fantastic. So, off to all that, unfortunately, the Pampa easily is one of the worst gunboat destroyers in tier 10. It has an extremely low DPM, slow shells, and poor kiting angles, means she needs the support to win any sort of actual gun duel. With the all forward guns is definitely a drawback in her case, as she doesn't have the DPM to fight, unlike, say, a Druid. If you fight a Druid, you're going to be suffering, unfortunately. You definitely want to use your concealment to avoid fights, and only use guns when you have an overwhelming advantage. Say, like, you're fighting a lower tier destroyer, or a destroyer that is way lower health than you, then yes, of course, you can do a gunfight then. But if it's like a toe-to-toe, the same health destroyer, most likely is one to turn out, use your smoke, and try to use your torpedoes on them rather than your guns. Moving on from that, let's talk about the ship's anti-air. Yeah, unfortunately, just like on all the DDs, it's pretty much non-existent. Just keep your anti-air off. If you have it on, yeah, you're just gonna be perma-spotted. So yeah, it's mostly effective against fighters, which is nice in that regard. Definitely use your great concealment to remain unspotted. A lot of the time, though, right now, I've had a lot of matches with Hildebrands. Woo! If you see one of those on your flank, definitely be very cautious in how you engage them. You definitely have to be further back, more towards your team. Because, yeah, if you don't, you're going to be really suffering, unfortunately. Hildebrands are a real nightmare right now, even if you don't see any aircraft carriers. Yeah, so watch out for Hildebrands in your match, because those bombers will... They will just blow you up. They'll do so much damage, so definitely be careful of those. So for ASW, for depth charges, you get 6 5,000 damage depth charges. They're weak overall. The individual depth charges are very strong, but the drops are too few. Also, her low speed makes it impossible to catch subs anyway. So overall, don't really bother with enemy subs unless there's no other option. You're literally on top of them. So just be note of that. So yeah. So moving on, let's talk about the maneuverability. This ship has a 34 knot top speed with a 560 meter turning radius, a 4.2 second rudder shift, a normal acceleration. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the cool daring acceleration, so big sad on that one. You don't get a speed boost, so pretty unfortunate. Now, unlike her British counterparts, she's a slow brick for her tier. She's very similar to the Sherman or the Friesland in terms of handling and speed. So you definitely have to be careful around the faster ships, or they'll just easily run you down. Even if you know how to avoid danger, that 34 knots makes it difficult to switch flanks or reposition. So it's definitely one of the biggest drawbacks of this ship, and it will make it difficult to step up and set up good torpedo salvos. Now, for concealment, you have a 5.7 kilometer best surface air detection. Sorry, surface detection, not air. Best surface detection, and a 2.9 kilometer best air detection, which is very good for the stealthy destroyer. It only outspotted by the IGN torpedo destroyers like the Shimakaze. This is definitely critical to her survival as she struggles to gunfight other destroyers. Instead, she can keep them spotted for allies to be able to shoot at them. All right, so the final statistic we'll be talking about is the hull. So the ship has the same hull as the Jutland, trades the rear turret for extra torpedoes. You do have one of the lowest HPs in the game, which is the third worst behind the Somers and the Shima. It's about 21,000 HP if you build into it. So yeah, you definitely have to build a survivability expert on this ship, or you're gonna be suffering for sure, unfortunately. So again, this ship doesn't have armor. It is a destroyer. At least you do get a repair party, which helps you be able to heal some of the damage you take. So definitely don't be trying to gunboat this thing. It's definitely more of a torpedo boat, so be a little bit more stealthy with this ship. This ship is definitely, unfortunately, one of the easiest destroyers to kill. While she does get the repair party, her low HP and inability to dodge because of her slow speed makes her very easy to kill, unfortunately. It's heavily reliant on concealment and team support to avoid unfavorable fights. So I would say that the La Pampa is, of course, it's the first tier 10 Pan American destroyer, which is very, very heavily specialized into torpedo attacks. And she really does double down into this torpedo destroyer role. Not only does she get 15 torpedo tubes, you also get the torpedo reload booster, which allows her to launch up to 30 torpedoes per wave. And that is insane for such a hard-hitting and stealthy torpedoes. So you can see the dread in the enemy. You also, throughout these matches, as they spot the wall of triangles just going toward them, and they don't have anything to do it. However, in most ideal situations, while all torpedo boats rely on some luck for success, the La Pampa doubles down here as she sacrifices a lot for her torpedo firepower. Her slow speed is a problem as fast enemies can simply run her down, which is a really big problem nowadays with how a lot of the newer ships are really quick. So it's kind of unfortunate for that. Even repositioning is really difficult. It's just not going to be fun trying to run away. Like if your enemy loses a flank, you can do your best to run, but it's going to be kind of difficult in that regard. Also, with the 12-kilometer radars from the Russians, yeah, it's going to be kind of rough. Kind of just a little bit. Overall, I'd say that the La Pampa is a surprisingly high-risk, high-reward type of ship. She can struggle in aircraft carrier matches or with hybrids and with heavy radar / anti-destroyer matches where her lack of guns and speeds make her extremely vulnerable. But with good positioning and some luck, you'll definitely get those moments where every torpedo lands, or they'll just turn and, you know, just kill them, just dev strike them, and it sinks half the enemy team. As a side note, I would recommend the La Pampa. It's also fun to play in operations as well, so you definitely have a fun time doing that. Once you know the spawn patterns, you can easily set up torpedo runs and absolutely brutal entire groups of bots for sure. You can have a lot of fun within operations. This ship is also a lot of fun to play in randoms. In ranked, it would depend on what the destroyers are. A lot of times the faster destroyers are normally what's brought into ranked nowadays, so I don't know how good of the ship this would be in ranked, but it does get smoke, it does get a heal, which makes it a very good ship for kind of like helping your team out or for the ability to get away. So always just consider that. Like, the ship does have its quirks. It can work in some situations, but not all. It's definitely a more heavy torpedo boat. So a high risk, high reward ship is the best way to put it. Now, one thing that I did not really talk about in this video is the fact that since this ship is the Pan American destroyer, you can put the special commander of Pan America on it. And he has a perk where if you activate your combat instruction twice, you get a speed boost of 10%. And with that 10% speed boost, it does elevate your speed a lot, making you go a lot quicker, so you're able to move a lot more efficiently than you would normally. So it does help alleviate that slower speed. Also, it makes it where your combat instruction is 20% progress permanently. So every time you have a new, like after you use a combat instruction, it will automatically start at 20%. So you're able to get your heals back quicker with the combat instructions. You're able to get your smokes back quicker, and your reload booster back for your torpedoes quicker. So overall, love the combat instruction, is amazing with this ship. Would definitely say it's definitely a high risk, high reward. So if you like those kind of ships, you'll definitely enjoy it. And also, if you love torpedo boats, you'll really love this ship. So a little history about this ship. This ship is the hypothetical purchase of a battle class destroyer, aka the Jutland, by the Argentinian Navy, but fitted with extra torpedo tubes instead of rear torpedoes. So how to get this ship? So you can get the La Pampa for 380 tokens during the event, which will be starting around November 15th. However, only 100 tokens can be obtained for coal and 20 through combat instructions. The rest must be obtained through random bundles priced at 1,000 doubloons. Although there is a 20% discount at the beginning, you'll have to pay if you want the La Pampa, unfortunately. So again, it's another one of those bundles. Fucking another one of those little the bents. So if you guys want to get the ship, you have to get through that. If not, then it may come back in the future, but at this point, I'm not sure. We'll see. So let's talk about the build that I suggest for this ship. Now, the build that I will be vastly focused on is the main gimmicks of the ship, which is the torpedoes, the stealth, and the consumables. As you can see on the top right, you can see the order of the skills taken with preventative maintenance first, then last stand. I would then take survivability expert first, then more consumables due to the fact that you need that extra HP. With low HP with how low the HP of this ship, you definitely get survivability expert first, and after that you would take concealment, which will make it your 10-point captain. Then you would take radio location to help you stay clear of enemy destroyers and launch torpedoes in the general direction of the area where they are at. For your 17-point commander, then you would take superintendent to get the extra consumables, and for the 20-point commander, you would get fill the tubes. And finally, the skill the final skill would be consumable specialist to help get your consumables back faster. Also, before you ask why there is no adrenaline rush, the reason why is that this ship is either exists at full health or no health. So I think it's better to have the consistent 10% reload buff to the torpedoes and the skills rather than adrenaline rush, because this ship, when it gets hit, it takes a lot of damage. And you do not want to risk taking a lot of damage in this ship, especially with the fact you do have a limited number of smokes and a limited number of heals. And this ship does not do well in the open being spotted. It takes a lot of damage, so definitely do not, I don't recommend adrenaline rush, but if you want to take adrenaline rush, you can take it over the consistent reload buff and just get the adrenaline rush one instead. But it's more up to you. It's a personal preference, but that's what I recommend for the build. For the modules, in slot 1, I take main armament to make your torpedoes and guns more tanky so they get knocked out less. Then I would take engine room protection so your rudder and engine do not get knocked out as much. In slot 3, I take torpedo tubes so I have a quicker torpedoes, since that is the main armament of this ship. In slot 4, I take propulsion to be able to accelerate and dodge easier. In slot 5 is concealment, of course, for stealth. And finally, in slot 6 is for torpedoes for the faster reload. So that's the build of the ship that I would recommend. Hopefully you guys were able to, enjoy my review of the La Pampa. I do like the ship. It's a lot of fun to play as a destroyer, as a torpedo destroyer. Being able to launch 30 torpedo salvos in the enemy is a real blast. It's a lot of fun to do. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. The main thing is this ship is a high risk, high reward. You're either going to do really well or you're going to do really bad. It all comes down to what kind of matchmaking you're getting, what you're put up against. Normally, that's the thing about torpedo boats. It's more up in the air on how well you're going to do or not do, which is why I normally play gunboats, but this ship is an exception. It's a lot of fun to play, and I like the combat instruction theme on this ship. It does fit the Pan-American theme of the combat instructions, which can be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Now, if you guys have any questions or concerns, stuff them in the comments down below. And again, I wish the ship was just going to be a coal ship or a steel ship research bureau, but they have it in their event for those tokens, which will be starting around November 15th. That's all that I know. They didn't really give us an exact date, so I'm just guessing around November 15th through November 16th or 17th. So you guys will see it around there, but thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you all later.